Well, Magatte, we're here at the North American Gas Forum and with the Energy Perspectives podcast. We got a chance to talk a little bit about your new project, Prosperity, Not Poverty. So thank you for that. I thought maybe we should start a little bit with you explaining to the audience your story. What brought you to this project, Prosperity, Not Poverty?
It's so my story basically is I'm from Senegal, the west coast of Africa, and around age 2, my parents became economic migrants to Europe in search for a better life for me, and so they left me back home in Senegal, and then they went, and then there back home, grew up with my grandma, and around age 7, my parents called for me to be reunited with them in Europe, because the journey had worked, and now they wanted me to be with them. And I remember arriving in Germany and looking around and thinking to myself, how come they have this and we don't? And really, when it really clicked in my head was that moment.
And what was the this they had?
Exactly, that's what I'm talking.
Yeah.
So when that popped into my mind, it has to do with this one specific event where my mother told me to step into a shower. And to take people back up a little bit, back home, taking a shower, when my grandma said, "My God, it's time for your shower," I knew that I had a good 45 minutes to an hour, to go play some more before that thing happens. Because I knew she would have to get a stove of coal going, fan it, then put a pot of water on it, wait for it to boil. And then once it's hot like that, she puts it in a bigger bucket, mix it with cold water, and then somebody stronger than her would drag it to the shower area. And then at last I could shower, taking from the big bucket with a small pot, plastic pot, back and forth to my body. That's what taking a shower meant.
Right.
But here I'm in Germany, my mom says, "My God, time for your shower." I'm like, where's that bucket of water? I'm not getting butt naked in this weather. It was cold. And so she's like, "Come on, you silly, just jump in the shower." And I jump in the shower, turn the knobs around, the water's coming down at the temperature that I want. Turns out you can even play with the pressure, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is a bad case of juju. I mean, seriously, going from having boiling water to now a home where water is piped in and it's heated. Right. It was like, whoa, this is weird. And it was like that about the paved roads, the grocery stores that had more apples than my little brain could count. I mean, bread types, same. And I was just like, oh my God, what's going on here? But Tim, that became the defining question of my life. How come they have this and we don't? That question became, how come some countries like mine and so many in Africa are poor, while others in the US, Australia, New Zealand are rich?
Right.
And it was a search that I had to find out. So every conversation I'm part of, every book I read, every movie I'm watching, I'm always trying to see, am I seeing something here? And I've heard it all. People say, oh, it's because of IQ theory. Blacks and browns just simply are not as smart. Right. I've heard people say it's because of malnutrition. I've heard people say it's because we don't have enough education. Mind you, half of graduates in Africa can't find a job. And the more educated you are, the more likely you are to be unemployed. So none of this makes sense. And eventually, I became an entrepreneur doing business both in Africa and in the US. And that's when things started to click for me. Because I realized how hard it was to set up a business in Africa and how hard compared to how easy it was in the US. And at first I thought, oh, it's just because, we're poor, everything is easy, everything is hard, and then they're rich, that's why everything is so easy. Just come to think of, oh, wait, if you are poor because you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money because you don't have a source of income. A source of income for most of us is a job. Where do jobs come from? Businesses, the private sector. But businesses also need something. They need an enabling business environment. We didn't have that. And it is like that in most of Africa. So there, at last, I had my answer. Africa is the poorest region in the world because it happens to be the most overregulated region in the world. Entrepreneurs can't enterprise. So I got into this journey of, I need to fight this. I need to fight for the free markets because it's the only way we're going to make it. Because my goal is 2.5 billion prosperous Africans by 2050. That's how many will be.
2.5 billion.
Yeah, 2.5 billion. And the only way to do that is through unleashing the free markets. Entrepreneurs get to work, build businesses, businesses create jobs, jobs provide income, income makes people, now we're all taking care of ourselves.
Right.
And then, so I went into that journey, wrote a book about it, and just as the book got published, I'm now waking up to the fact that another critical component to this formula that I have come up with in my life, which is, if you want human flourishing, humans have to have access to economic freedom on one end, and affordable, reliable, abundant energy sources. And I was realizing that that one too was being under really wild attacks, especially in the name of climate alarmism.
Right.
And so I just thought to myself, there's no way this can happen, because just like with economic freedom, you will not find a rich nation that has no economic freedom. Same thing with, you can't find a rich nation that's also energy poor. So at this point, it became very clear. And so one thing leading to another, I said, I got to lend my voice to this, because the problem I see in this industry, the biggest problem I see for it is what you told me you saw outside, people protesting.
Right.
We are at the North America Gas Forum, and people are outside protesting the use of gas. Right. Why? Because it's fossil fuels. Why? Because it's going to be carbon emissions. Why? Because that's going to blow up our planet 20 years from now. And so all of these people are out there asking for fossil fuels to stop.
Right.
Gas being one of them. And I'm sitting here as an African and saying, do you understand what you're asking for? Do you understand what you're asking for? You're asking for millions of people right now to continue dying. And I'm not saying but are going to die.
Right.
They're dying every year. But you're asking for these people to continue dying. Why? Because of primarily indoor air pollution in this case. I'm not even talking about the other issues.
So explain the indoor air pollution issue for a minute.
The indoor air pollution is because when you're in an energy poor nation, it means that you don't have access to what we're calling this abundant, affordable, reliable energies. Right. So what happens is many women, because women are the ones traditionally in traditional homes who cook the meals, you need a source of heat to cook for your family. And so what they do, because we don't have piped up gas, just like I didn't have piped water in my home.
Right.
What people do is they use various forms of biomass. They're using, charcoal. They're using wood that they cut, from the trees nearby. They're using cow dung. They're using all of these like really bad biomasses, right, which when they burn, you can just imagine the, the dust that comes out
right
of that, the particles. And these women are literally frying their lungs. And that's what they're dying from. Millions of these people are dying every single year, many of them in Africa. And so this is what's going on right now. And the cleanest, best, cheapest way to solve this problem right now is access to gas. But they're saying, no, you can't, because, gas, carbon, climate, our kids 10 years from now won't have a life.
Right.
So you're saying my kids need to die now? We need to die right now for sure for some hypothetical future?
Right.
Is that what you're saying? I don't think the people up there are thinking about that. And so this is why it's been important for me that we are out there educating people on the importance of affordable, reliable, abundant energy. And last time I checked, fossil fuels is part of it. It's going to have to be part of it for a long while.
Right.
It doesn't mean I'm against renewables. I think we need to continue innovating on those fronts. But in the meantime, we use what's available and what works.
Right.
Because otherwise it means people dying, literally. And we can't have that. That's just where the first order of business is do no harm. So we can't be killing people. Now, so because of that, it's become very clear for me that this education needs to happen, because all of these policies come from culture. Mm-hmm. What people believe in to be true, what makes them anxious, is what then they go and try to push politicians then to, put in place some policies.
Right.
And so this is not, it's not rocket science. And it is because of that I decided to operate at the cultural level, trying to see if I can help educate my fellow citizens in this country and other places, citizens of the world, and just understanding what fossil fuels mean to our life today and tomorrow. And in that regard, Prosperity, Not Poverty is an initiative that was created to do just that, to not only put the data together, mm-hmm, but also make sure we lead with the story part, because where people get to understand...
With the cultural message.
With the cultural message, exactly, where people get to understand really the relationship between life as we know it and human flourishing, especially for the poorest among us, the most, destitute among us, and energy. They need to understand this. And I have found that most people, once they get to understand, really change their mind. Because at the end of the day, I do believe that most people are good people. Yeah. We're just bumbling along, trying to make it up as we're going. And people tell us something, we believe that, unless somebody else comes in and gives us a different side of a story. And so that's what prosperity not poverty is all about. We are very solid on the data in the back end, but I don't think that leading with data is the way to go. We have to connect with people at a human level. And that's why I'm very proud to be a champion for prosperity not poverty. So we can do just this, knowing that if we succeed, we save many people.
So it's a cultural engagement, as you noted here at the conference. We're in a hotel in downtown Washington, D.C. There are protesters outside the hotel. They're protesting the use of natural gas. That too is a cultural response, right? It's an attempt to appeal to emotion and to the social impacts of what we're doing. How would you directly respond to that sort of protest commentary with what you want to do with prosperity, not poverty?
Yeah, I think with them, what I would want to do is just what we just talked about. I think many people. I'll give you an example. I was speaking in Calgary a few weeks ago. I don't know if it feels like a couple weeks ago, but maybe it was a month from now. But at some point, I asked the students in the room. I said, "Where do you guys see energy in this room?"
Uh-huh.
And most of them pointed to, of course, the heater that was heating us because it was cold, and then they pointed to the lights and everything that's kind of electronics, right? And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And I said, well, this rug, energy is in it. This chair, it's in here. These clothes we're wearing, it's in there. The food we ate, thanks to energy. The shampoo we used, the makeup you put on, energy, 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 energy everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think from where I was standing, I could see that they were just like, because people don't think about that.
Right.
I mean, energy is everywhere. It's there's a one you can see, and there's a one you don't see.
Right.
But it's all the time, all around. And without it, we just go back to the caves right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the type of message and conversation that I would like to have with these people, and share with them what is it that for somebody who is from Africa, we see what they don't get to see anymore, because we see what they get to take for granted.
Right.
When you live in an environment where you can't even remember when is the last time you had a power outage, I can't blame you for no longer seeing this force that's surrounding you and making everything possible, yet you take for granted.
Yeah.
But we don't have that luxury, because my grandma did it this way, and frankly, many people are still doing it.
Still doing it to this day. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My home in Senegal, because we're in the village, I don't have warm water. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. And everywhere, even in the house, I'm lucky because we can afford it. But I do have a canister of gas to cook with. But we always have a bag of charcoal on the
Just
side,
in
on the
case,
corner.
as a fallback.
Yeah, because you never know when the canister is going to go empty. It could go empty in the middle of the night or whatever. You need it. Maybe some moms have to warm up a bottle for the child or whatever. You have it. And and every month we're probably, and also some people say, oh, why don't you have two canisters? Well, because it's a hazard. I don't want this thing to blow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people don't think about these things. And the power goes out multiple times a day. And you never know if it's going to go.
You're just used to it. Just becomes part of life.
Yeah. You never know if it's going to go out for 1 minute, 24 hours, 3 days. You don't know.
Right.
The water, same thing. Why? Because while now in my house there's piped water, but the problem is the pump for the gravity thing. People don't think about this thing. When you take this nice shower and it's not like flat, like a flat stream, it's because, there's energy pumping all of this stuff. So, like the water comes at the volume it should be coming out.
Yeah.
So all of these things that we take for granted, you're showering and your little shower, like the stream is this tiny, and you have to angle up the shower head for it to give you more, and then you're just sitting there and getting too hot or too cold in between. It's things that I live with every day.
Yeah.
And so I think people up here need to be really reminded what it means, because the people up here protesting are part of the 1 billion people who happen to have everything they need.
Right.
But the rest of us, it's not like this. And so I think
so it's a protest of privilege, right?
Pretty much.
These people have
pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And so for now, I'm willing to forgive them because I do believe that there is ignorance involved, but they can no longer hide behind ignorance once they get this side of the story. And I do think they're not getting it, because the problem we have had in the industry is that the industry had just cowered down, while the other side, the climate alarmists. And I really would call out the anti-fossil fuel zealots, the climate alarmists. the people who are out there promoting a very distorted story. And so they are the problem. And so they have become very loud. But this industry, instead of standing proud in the understanding of what it has done and how it has helped our civilization thrive, no, they didn't do that. They just hunkered down. They apologized up and down the street.
Right.
They hid, and no courage nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that Chris Wright has been one of the few in the industry to really stand up there,
Secretary of Energy,
Secretary of
here in the US.
and say the things he's been saying before he was even Secretary of Energy for the US. You know? And so we need that type of things, because at the end of the day, it comes down to people need to know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's been detrimental for the energy industry to just cower down. And so today, people like me and others, we have to come in and try to see if we can lend, our voice to what energy represents to human flourishing and civilization. Because literally, if we stop all of this, we go back to the caves.
Magatte, you mentioned that you were talking to students when you were in Calgary recently. Are students a key focus for what you want to do with Prosperity Not Poverty?
Primarily, students are my focus. Why? Because I think people tend to forget that youth drives everything. People tend to look down on youth and think, oh yeah, you're just young, you're going to change your mind, whatever. But what these young people think matters a great deal. Think who has been one of the greatest voices for climate alarmism, Greta Thunberg, when she was 16 years old.
Right.
Her little friend, daughter of John Doerr, one of the most iconic venture capitalists in Silicon Valley in the United States of America.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, he showed up, and because his daughter basically got on his case. His daughter, I think she was 16, also got on his case because you're ruining the planet. And so he jumped onto the Al Gore bandwagon back in the days, the inconvenient truth, whatever. And that's how it started. So I think people don't understand, but once you think about it, it makes sense. You as a parent, whether your name is Al Gore, or your name is Bill Gates, or John Doerr, or whatever, what your child thinks of you is probably the most important thing anybody can think of you.
Right.
And so if that child of yours, absolutely, so if that child of yours comes home, and she, because usually it's going to be a she, has a problem, or you're going to feel it. And she can change how the household thinks.
You're not saying that just
people.
because I have daughters. You're saying it's...
You got it. You got it. So yes, young people are my focus.
Right.
And what I like about them is they are not entrenched people. They truly care.
Right.
And they are, and because they truly care and are not entrenched, they're very capable of being able to hear a different story, connect the dots, make up their own mind, and go from there. And also, once they believe and understand something, you've got the greatest allies in there. So
Magatte, say we look forward. We all hope that we achieve your objective, which you noted in your remarks yesterday here at the conference, 2.5 billion Africans by 2050 out of poverty, living prosperous lives. The value proposition of energy doesn't change at that point, though, does it? I mean, the issue about poverty can also be an issue in societies like the United States today or Canada today, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you.
How does your project address that?
No, I'm glad you're making me. You're talking about that. So the plan here is, energy poverty is a major issue if we want to lift poor nations out of poverty. It is also a major issue in places like this, because the people protesting outside right now, if nothing is done and if we can't help them see the light and turn around, the lights are going to go off in the streets of DC. Right now, it probably doesn't hurt these people protesting, but their policies are hurting people right now, the poorest among us in this country at this point, because their energy bills are going way up because of some of the policies that these people are promoting.
Right.
So right now, people, the most vulnerable among us, are suffering from this. UK, same thing. No one talks about it. But elderly, especially the elderly, in the winter, how many of them are we losing? Because they have to choose between putting food on the table or, heating their homes. Right? Heating or eating.
Yeah.
And they're making the choice of eating, except they don't last long.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart to no end, but no one is thinking about these people. But it's all directly linked to this. So the way I see it is, sadly, oftentimes when you try to make this case at a Western level, it's hard to get people to hear you.
Right.
Because everything has been polarized. And so it's just like this side fighting this side.
Yeah.
Where if you extract yourself out of that polarity and you go back to the human side of it, you use the Africa standpoint where it's flat out stories, real stories
right.
of what energy poverty really means for people and how fossil fuels still has to be part of the answer because nothing else compares to it.
Right.
At that point, I find people come around. And once they come around and then they want to help and they want to support and they're like, yeah, I guess fossil fuels for Africa. But once you say fossil fuels for Africa, you're not too far off from and fossil fuels for the rest of us because what is true here is true here
true
as well.
everywhere.
But it's easier to make the case from that standpoint than to try to make it from, Americans in America also deserve, abundant, affordable, reliable energy. It's hard. The minute you make the argument from that standpoint, you fall into the trap of polarization,
yeah.
and everything is politicized.
Right.
But from when you're saying it from the Africa standpoint, you elevate yourself to the higher ground where it is the moral high ground. And I have found that most people, when it comes to the moral high ground, we pretty much have our act together as humans, including the people protesting out there.
Right.
It would take me a little bit longer maybe with them, but I think we can make it to the other side.
Yeah.
So that's what prosperity, not poverty, is all about. It is this initiative that's not about shouting out or, fist for fist like it is right now about this issue, but a story of can we connect back to our shared humanity. That's it.
Well, Magatte, it's a fantastic story. Your personal story makes it all the more compelling. So thank you for sharing that with us today. We wish you every success with Prosperity Not Poverty, and with your ongoing travels to Calgary and various other places it brings you. Cold cities where they need heat as well, too, right?
They do. They do. They do.
Thanks very much, Magatte.
You're welcome. Thank you.